Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's Alicia Brasher here at Cosmic Gateway. I am very excited to bring Jack back, so that we can continue with his story. So if you haven't caught the first part of that, Jack so openly shared a lot of his pathway in various different forms of talking about secret space program and incarnations on different planes and levels of existence, and what that process was like for him to come into those memories and awarenesses, and how he integrated that through the physical vessel. And we talked about the co-creation of the work that he's creating with his vibrational essence sprays. So Jack, welcome back. I'm super excited to have you here to continue on this conversation, and yeah, just see where we go and flow. But I know that we got talking off camera, and we didn't get to cover that last time, and talking about some of the darker parts of the path and the what I like to call the initiation phases, and some of the dark nights of the soul and the things that we go through along our ascension journey and pathway. And I'd certainly love to hear from you, what some of that was like, and talk about it as, I see that that's a path that everyone has to go through and face their shadow aspects, and go through levels of interference and ego deaths and all that fun stuff. And from, I don't know, you can put your thoughts on this, but from what I'm sort of seeing on a collective level, and I just finished recording a video for my subscribers channel, and I was just saying how what I can see is that a lot of people are being positioned as we move through this year to step into more of a level of service, truth and authenticity more than ever before. And sometimes that can put us in a really tight squeeze. I always say jumping out and doing this work and being open and sharing your story is one of the most terrifying things that you can do. So I really take my hat off to yourself and anyone who's doing this and sharing that work. So yeah. Hopefully
it's tricky.
It is tricky, and I've certainly been there and had many dark times that I've had to go through, and I think just talking about it can give a level of understanding or clarity to people who may be facing that, or just a reflection piece for some, depending on where you're at and where the path is leading you. But yeah, let's dive in and talk about the dark nights of all the fun stuff, the dark nights of the soul and interference. And
yeah, definitely. It's probably the most conducive thing that you can do along this journey to recognize the interrelationship between not just love and light kind of things, but also recognize the darkness. And a lot of people will refer to more of a mainstream understanding of darkness, like stuff that you avoid and don't go into, and you just do your 9 to 5 thing or whatever, and you ignore the atrocities sometimes, which is understandable. It's really heavy to go into, not just the internal aspect of the dark night of the soul, and the events that happen within yourself, but it also reflects the outer world that we're experiencing on this planet, in terms of our inner child neglect and all that stuff. So yeah, it's I guess for me personally, from my perspective and experience, it's been a journey of understanding my emotions, and how those emotions correlate with how I perceive the world, how I create my world, and understanding the energetics of emotions, and the different wordings like emotion, energy motion, within the heart space, which many people watching would more or less know about. And when we start the journey, we can often go through a descension into the primordial energies within the root chakra, and even deeper into the earth itself, so to speak. The netherworlds, our inner demons, and that's also very much connected to, as we mentioned, the inner demons within the earth plane as well, that exists either by a physical manifestation, through different events that have occurred throughout time, based upon, you know, ritualistic abuse, um, that has been around for thousands of years, in different names, different groups, different occult groups that participate in that way based upon, because of, you know, the disconnection that they have from the higher realms. So they have to find a food source to nourish their beingness, their existence. Otherwise, they fade away eventually. So that's touching upon, you know, why they exist, and why are we so valuable to the lower density entities, physical and non-physical, and why it's such a challenge for everyone, including the dark ones, if you want to call it that, because many of the different expressions are also battling their own distortions. And we can, yeah, we just think that they're negative and they're bad and we should fight them and try to destroy them, and while they're trying to destroy us. And it's like, okay, there's a back and forth going here. There's a dualistic kind of consciousness being created here. So yeah, uh, so the journey within myself, I guess it's to, in order to really integrate the darkness within ourselves, we recognize the emotions that are coming up instead of suppressing them. Um, what is the root cause of the emotion? Where did it start? What experience was it connected to? And then understanding different perspectives of why that person projected that emotion and that action towards you. And it's pretty much like an intergenerational kind of experience. Like each generation gets that program put into them, or those similar experiences, and then they project that onto their kids, and it goes on and on and on. And that goes into perhaps a topic that's very relevant at the moment, that mainstream media and the so-called elites don't want us to talk about or pay attention to. It's something that probably isn't something that we should mention the word of because of YouTube and censorship. But yeah,
We can code it. We can code it.
we can encode it. So it's to do with Save the Children. That should do it with what it's about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's part of the externalization of saving and healing our inner child as well. So by attending to the exterior problem of children being abused, and also the abuse that we've encountered within ourselves in our inner child, then we heal the whole. So, and vice versa, healing ourselves heals the collective. And on a collective level of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that are here from different backgrounds, and star nations, experiencing a human experience. We are shifting so much energy, so much density in each day.
Feeling
So
every word of that through my body as you're talking. Yeah.
it's in the moment. It's very much catalytic, but then in retrospect, you really get to cherish the work and the importance of it, and how that allows us to rise from the nether regions, the foundations of ourselves, to then graduate into coming back to our heart center, and then expanding from the heart center like a flower. And then that opens up the higher chakra, just like 3 inches above the main chakra. And that higher heart chakra is very important as well. It's our connection, where the soul essence starts to merge with the physical body, this avatar, and then you start to speak your own soul language, which a lot of people talk about as being light language, or the divine wisdom from your soul that's able to then be translated and expressed, to as a form of healing for people. You get to also learn the fact that the frequencies of those different tones, it will start to activate people's DNA, reawaken them out of the different like spells that are put out there through media and other forms. And also, as you strengthen that connection within your heart space and then emanate upwards into your divine mind, your crown chakra, your third eye, then you become less susceptible to the darker aspects of reality. There is no dark or heavier density frequency that can exist within this spiral kind of galaxy within us that is interrelated with the galactic core of this universe. So the way I relate to it in that way is that the more I allowed myself to sink into my emotions, to fall onto the ground and cry, and to be vulnerable, the more I was opening myself up back to myself.
Yeah.
And yes, it's painful, but it becomes a painful joy as you go through it.
I can relate. Like, as you're talking, I'm having a lot of memories sort of flashback and kind of revisiting those times, and as hard and as challenging as they were for me, I look back at them fondly, because it really is the trauma and the pain that actually cracks the heart wide open and allows us to come back to that soul essence of who we truly are, our divine nature. But there's a lot of unraveling in that process that can be torturous and painful. And and I love that. I have very fond memories that I can laugh about now, but screaming, crying on the floor, in fetal position, shaking, because my whole nervous system was rewiring itself, and literally like just intense fear just running through my system, trying to escape. Like the way that I've always seen the ascension process is that as we come into contact with higher frequencies, and this can happen in a number of ways, whether it's through sort of like a near-death experience, as we spoke back in your last interview, Kundalini awakening, coming into divine resonance and in partnership of a soul frequency match. It can catalyze the unprocessed traumas and wounds that has been avoided and pushed under the carpet, and sometimes it can come up all at once, sometimes depending on the individual's path. But it's like there's a need for an escape and a release, and it can be very, very brutal at times. And it's returning back to our true nature. So I love the way that you went through and described that. And I talking about the nature of the micro and the macrocosm, and how we're interlinked with Earth's ascension process. I've always seen it like that, as we go through that healing and clearing, we help the earth shift in its frequencies and go through that healing process as well. And I had this beautiful, when the Save the Children started to become real highlighted, I think it was about 12 months ago. It was about around March time last year. And this thing just kept saying to me over and over again, like, the old world ends in the acknowledgement and the healing of the atrocities that have happened to children of thousands of years on this planet. As that comes into light, that ends, and then it starts the new cycle of the new world, which really is about the new children that are coming in and being born, and the work that I do with New Earth children. There's that transient phase, but it's really, at the end of it, it all comes back to the children and our own inner child that has in many ways been neglected, or has been mistreated or misunderstood, and a lot of big things can happen when we nurture that inner child and attend to those needs. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely that reconnection back to source itself, the Godhead, whatever you want to call it, wherever you're watching this video from in the world. It's all leading back to the same singularity point of expression, the unity, the love that creates all within the universe, the nurturing, which then brings out new ideas, new creations. It's like the child of the universe is roaming around creating all these balls of light, and within those balls of light you have all these different expressions being made for the potentialities of what it is to be, simply what it is to be, to exist. And yeah, so like for me, I've done a lot of inner journeying and understanding of the symbology and archetypes of these different physical manifestations in terms of reptilian energy, zeta reticular energy, which is the grays, what they represent, not just in our physical um, understanding of like what have we seen on movies and within the UFO community as well.
Mm.
And, but it's like um, uh, when you explore what the reptilian energy is within yourself, in terms of the draconian or the zeta gray or the serpent energy or the kundalini, and how that looks like within yourself and how it rises up from the base and activates all the different so-called seals of Solomon. For example, there's an interesting story of that, and how um, we need to kind of tame the ego, the distorted ego, that sure, you come into that awareness of I've got more to offer, and power, and all that stuff. But if you don't have a balanced clear mind where the ego likes to play, then you have a lot of conflicts that are manifested from that throughout time and space. So that's why I stress and highlight the fact that it's important to rise from a space of security and a space of understanding of the physical self, to nurture the physical self. So when you have those foundations, and you rise into the higher energy systems within yourself and expand, then you can then go into the different dimensions and realities and different versions of Earth, where we get to see what would have happened if Atlantis didn't sink and the reptilians would have taken over Atlantis, and you would have seen things like cyborgs and everything, all AI stuff being manifested in that timeline where Atlantis didn't sink. That's one thing that I've seen in a different version of Earth where I was taken, where we saw that type of stuff. But then there's the opposite of that, which will be like a kind of utopian golden age of connection to our spirituality, and also merging with the spiritual technologies, which are not just physical, but they're high dimensional technologies that we can integrate into our energetic bodies, and use that to travel to different places with our consciousness. And also when we reach a certain vibrational frequency and integration, then we can actually travel with our physical body to a different planet, and then, appear somewhere like Mars, or at a different version of Venus where there's actually people living there. Because humanity has such a broad history of ascension, going from planet to planet, and Marduk was destroyed because of the conflict we had between in the Orion Wars and stuff like that, and the giants and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just a big experiment, in order to understand ourselves in different forms, and it's being passing through Marduk, Mars, and then from Mars to you got Venus, and from Venus to Earth itself. And now here, this is the heart of the universe, so speaking, you can say, where everything comes together right now for us to deal with the emotion of everything, and we can't avoid that either way.
100%.
Mm.
And I've always, or at least what I've understood from my own journey and what I've seen through working with other souls like yourself, well, not that we've worked together, but advanced souls who've come into this knowing and understanding, is that sometimes the pathway, it's all relative. It's all relative to each individual's, but depending upon the soul's journey can be how deep dive we go, and if we've had different experiences on different planets, or lived out different times in darker times of society and history, when we get to this point of graduation and ascension in our own individual journey as Earth's going through it, we can be healing all of those timelines, which I know, and I recognize, and I see in people when they hit their dark night and they go through intense clearing, like, this is so much more than your individual process, that there's a portion of Earth's process intertwined in what you kind of signed up to do, and you got to go back to knowing that, this was a choice that you made on a soul level to come in because you knew that you're strong enough to go through that process, so it's, hats off to those who are doing that deep work, or have done. It plays such a crucial role in the whole.
Yeah, it does, definitely. So yeah, it's beautiful to see that coming together for people, and I'm meeting so many in different ways, that it's like you become a beacon of light, that calls out to your soul family. And a lot of us come from different branches of the tree of life, you can call it, different degrees of where we've ventured out from the center of this energetic expression of the universe itself. And yeah, it's really interesting to understand how, and be able to see the fractalized process of how do I come back to myself, and what it is to exist in myself, and how much potential that we have when we understand ourselves, we understand the universe itself. And that's why we are able to travel wherever we want to within the universe, because it exists within us as a frequency. And certain people will come and ascend from the earth plane up into the spiritual plane, and some people are coming downwards and down into the earth to bridge that those two different paths and meeting those people that are in different stages of their evolution on this on the soul level, and a lot of us that have come in to be part of this matrix, this realm of existence, this what some people can refer to as the holographic reality, is kind of like a school of preparation as creators ourselves, creators first of all of our own personal realities, and then expanding it out into the surrounding reality, and then going into the galactic and universal and multiverse reality, multiple universes. So within each universe, there's a point of creation of the mind of that creator, and that creator then, like we are here now experiencing that creator within this universe, is giving free reign to a higher degree for us to see what's possible from the very densest and darkest and most scary looking kind of scenario to the most highest frequency, highest complex form of beingness within the angelic realm, the God realm, the Seven Master realm, the elemental realm, and also the like the realms of where you see a lot of the cetaceans, the the mermaids, the different crustaceans that themselves are high dimensional expressions and that exist in this planet on Earth, holding the frequency as part of the ecosystem. So it's like top down and down up, as above below, And at the moment, it's very much a busy time for everyone. From what I've been, not just in dream time, but just reconnecting with my ship and stuff like that. And they seem to be very busy at the moment, getting things in line for the main event, to where we make that breakthrough as a society, making that connection with humanity, realizing how interconnected we are with those ships that we see, and the fact that the often aspects of ourselves exist on those ships from different times throughout time and space. Right now, coming back hundreds of years to correct distortions that have occurred. Yeah, it's really interesting stuff.
It is fascinating because I've been kind of collecting stories and my own experience, and I think for the last like 2 or 3 weeks now, or at least the last fortnight, I've been having like nightly like time where I've been out in space, driving around ships, getting things in order. It's been a really busy dream time space, and I know that a lot of other people have been having very similar experiences, so that it's gearing up for something monumental, and we just have to be in the unfolding of that and the patience of doing that, and doing daily as we feel called and guided to. But I just got so excited hearing you say that, because it just sent shivers through. I was like, whoa. And I'm really keen to see what March brings. People have a lot of different thoughts, and I think people read into different timelines too, and I know March has always been a big month, big energies, so it's going to be interesting to see sort of what occurs.
Yeah, definitely. It's like a month of immense collaboration coming together, like I kind of touched upon earlier, where things just, so to speak, happen, and people are kind of like, it's like merging together of like, okay, we found a space this is where it's at. This is where the magic will start to happen even more and expand from there. Um, and then to step into and step up to the deeper realizations of what we're here to do, and for others to see that, to witness that, for them to be inspired,
Yeah.
and to also come into the realization of that we don't need to compete against each other who's reached the 5D level and of consciousness and stuff, when we need to come into ourselves and really stop fooling ourselves of like trying to externalize our perceived achievements and say that's the achievement, when really you know that you still have things to do within your heart space to heal that heart trauma, um, and that's where the gold is within yourself, and that is the abundance that all coaches and gurus talk about, reaching nirvana and everything. It's that reconnection of the heart space, that bliss, that joy that you feel with people when you meet new connections, reconnections from different times, and that home and your body vibrating and everything when you hug that person for the first time, like I did yesterday, which is really, really cherishing, a cherishing moment for me. And then to share that gift with someone as a puzzle piece for them.
Yeah.
And then understanding the process, like um, whether it's purely energetic work or energetic work through a blend of, concoction that I do with Lion Alchemy. It's not just like getting activated. It's more like you've been activated now a bit deeper. You've gone through that experience of what that did for you. Now it's like your throat's going to be going through a process. Your all different parts of your body are going to start to crackle and open and clear. And it's like there's a clearing going on. There's a healing going on here for you. So yeah, like this morning I had a bit of a raspy voice, and yeah,
There's a bit of collective throat stuff going on, I feel.
really speak your truth. The time is now, kind of thing going on. And like the theme of like the indigo blue behind you and the purple jumper that you're wearing is very prominent. It's like, yeah, now it is time to share that which you have here coming through you, whatever way that you feel through your artistic endeavors. And life is itself art as you go deeper and realizing that in all ways. And it's really exciting. But yeah, at the moment, it's really beautiful for me personally to witness um, how things manifest into that form, and to see people really like contort and move, and to see that energy come up, like amazing, like things like seeing people's necklaces, like Soul Family had like a moonstone, and the moonstone like glistened blue, like literally blue from the white. I was like, wow, that's a really powerful moment right there for her especially. And a lot of us have gone through traumas where we've had our voice boxes cut out or our heads cut off through different incarnations. And then in this life, this is a combination where if you want to, if you really are in that space, then you'll kind of put intention to attract the person or people around you that will help you facilitate that moment for you of coming back to yourself, getting that soul shard aspect of yourself back into this body to come together fully embodied. And we can have up to 50, 50 shards of ourselves in the universe, out scattered throughout the universe, for us to go through that process of merging that back into this one whole light body within us. So yeah, it is a journey, and it's there's no point comparing yourself to anyone. Like whether you are here to um, you're here to achieve what you're here to achieve. You're not here to achieve what everyone else is achieving. So it's like honoring and cherishing and witnessing each person's achievements within themselves and sharing that joy,
Mm.
and vice versa for yourself, and celebrate yourself where
Mm.
you are at right now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God, it's so beautiful to listen. I could listen to you talk all day, and I think that that's really prevalent too. Like this is a time for speaking up and speaking truth, and I think it's finding a balance and a blend of that in terms of there's a big truth seeker movement of speaking out truths of calling out the BS, for lack of a better word, of what they see witnessing on a global level. But then it's also that personal truth too, and having the courage and vulnerability to go to those places, and it's like, what is my personal truth, and what do I need to verbalize on a personal level as well. And it's the bridge and the marrying of that, and that really only comes through the heart space. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, at large, the collective would feel a bit ooey gooey with that. Like it's a bit mushy and like be a bit put off by that, because of the different programs that we go through perceptions. And perception and information go hand in hand. It's the two most important things of expression, like how you expose yourself to certain things, and coming back to owning your shit, to put it bluntly. Um, and with the long and narrow right now, we're not like left and right zigzag in terms of I can delay this, do it later, I'll come back to it. No, you won't come back to it. It will come back to you.
You're right.
And okay, I can't avoid it. It's painful, but okay, if I can't, I don't feel like I can do it on my own. How can I process it, and where can I go to get that facilitation and assistance, which is what you and me are doing. For example, we're facilitating a space right here for people to um, listen, to witness, and to be catalyzed by the words being expressed. So uh, in that way, then that can lead to the questions for that person to expand upon, to then take them to an event, a workshop, where that person has tools for them to kind of open up things, unlock things like the key master in the matrix, opening up different doorways of possibilities. Um, and I find it, I love storytelling. I love the the symbology within movies. I love my sci-fi, fantasy, and all that stuff, and anime. And like we get the messages that we're seeking and do exist outside of us, as well as reminders, as breadcrumbs within uh, like animation and also film itself. And it's amazing. Like I used to always watch Dragon Ball Z when I was younger, and a lot of animes like the Airbender have very relevant gnosis that you can learn about, and in terms of how you activate your powers and bend air and stuff like that, and going through the different wells of water, so to speak, representing the chakra system. And each well has to be cleared out and cleaned out for it to flow in a very smooth way, for it to function properly. So kind of interrelating um, in that story, for example, with the airbender and the old master that's trying to teach him like how you really open yourself up to what your true potential is.
Because
Um,
I
yeah,
truly believe that we're all superhuman, just waiting to be activated, to have magnificent gifts and abilities and skills. But to get there is a process of purification. And something that I was recently reminded of is the path of a healer, or hands-on healer, or energetic healer.
mm,
Um, it is a deep dive of purification, because anything that's distorted within your field that you've carried throughout incarnations or this lifetime needs to go through that purification so that you can be the purest channel and vessel of that to hold that frequency, to be able to hold that space and to transfer it and be that channel to transfer it to other people. And when it was given to me in dream space, and when it was given to me in that way, it was a little piece of information or a message that really helped me understand, because I know when I was going through my dark night of that purification process, I kind of was in the dark. And I think generally that's what happens. It's like you get shut off from any sort of intuition or higher consciousness knowing while you go through those phases. And it's only in hindsight, looking back, that you can see it from a different perspective, and see how necessary it is or was. And I think that's why it's important to seek support and guidance while going through that, so that someone else can hold space for you to be sort of like that support or light to guide you through that process when you're not in your highest knowing, let's say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I can relate to that in many ways. Witnessing people and spending weeks on end with people that are very gifted in their abilities, but if you don't take care of your physical temple, your body, in other words, your body is your church, so to speak. And I mean that in a non-dogmatic way. It's more like realizing that the sacredness of the body and how amazing it is, how it can heal itself, um, how your thoughts interact with your physical body, and how you can shift the energy from having Bell's palsy. I think I mentioned that last, and then shifting that within less than a month, and that for a lot of people it takes years, especially when you're vibrating in the vibration of fear and the third dimensional dualistic consciousness,
Yeah,
and externalizing your power, especially.
100%.
So yeah.
I'll just chime in because you know, I feel privileged that I've been able to witness miraculous physical transformations in myself and people that I've facilitated energy work for over the years. But of recent time, I've never spoken about this, but my dad had went to see an eye specialist, and this happened a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, and they diagnosed him with a rare form of cancer, and and I could see that kind of shattered him. You know, obviously you hear the C word and you go into that negative mindset and you go into worst case scenario. And I sort of kicked into gear, and I sort of, him and the great healers that I work beside sort of band around, and we all chipped in and did our part in helping facilitate. And I did some pretty intense healing work around that. And thank you to everyone else who sent their well wishes and support. And he went in for surgery just a week ago, and yesterday he got back the results, and they said that when they went in, it wasn't as bad as it first looked on the first. And he got the results back yesterday that it was actually benign and it wasn't cancerous. And you know, I truly believe that without that support and that energetic work, that it could have been, but we helped sort of shift his energy and shift that timeline for him. So, you know, that indeed is absolutely possible. And I just wanted to chime in and share that little recent experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really amazing thing that we can do, and I've seen examples in Asia where there's a doctor that was doing kind of like meridian work, but using his fingers and touching on certain points of the body. And there was like studies on him since the 80s, and at certain points he like his guide, his master, kind of disallowed him from doing public kind of showings of his abilities because he allowed his ego to get in the way of it. But yeah, it's a very strict kind of way of like you, just because you can do amazing things like that, you don't show it off in a way that's ego based.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really cool stuff. And I guess going back to the reptilian stuff as well, because that's one thing that we've touched upon, but there might be a bit more that we can cover before we finish. And I guess with the reptilian stuff, it's always fear-based programming that is played upon. So if you are holding on to distorted ego patterns and programmings, and you're easily swayed because of your ego programming, then you're going to face difficulties of being knocked off path of what your true purpose is, and it's going to take longer. So that is why it's important to kind of come to that space of like, okay, who can I go to? How can I develop my intuition, which is one of the most efficient ways to kind of get a feeling for who it is I'm going to work with. Do they align with what my soul essence needs? And that way, then you can move forward deeper and deeper into the heart space and the reptilian energy within yourself, and the interfaces that sometimes get overlaid on people in terms of implants, for example, and that comes into unions, interference with unions that occur where one person will have a reptilian overlay, which will then project itself onto another person. That person thinks that you are a reptilian and you're doing evil stuff to her or him, and it creates that separation. So if you understand the importance of energetic work and clearing your energetic body and then merging that into your physical state of being, then yeah, everything becomes much clearer and insightful and understanding. So you can make those leaps in states of consciousness and having clarity on a lot more. So like the human mind, I guess, plays a part in creating a new vessel within itself to bring in the higher frequencies and the complex information. And if we look after our bodies and understand what each food group plays a part in, the living food and the dead food, then that will clear the channels within the body to allow space for the higher frequencies to come in. And then things just unfold from there. Be able to hold like 12 dimensional frequencies and above as a crystalline being, and your body will start to shift from carbon based to crystalline stage by stage. And that's why we get certain feelings of like pressure within the body, especially in the heart space. When it starts opening, you feel like a pressure.
It hurts, doesn't it? Oh boy, does it hurt.
It does hurt for a bit, and then it's like you make that breakthrough with that, and you're not having a heart attack. Some people, I thought I was
same. The first time my heart started opening, I was like, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack. And then, yeah, you kind of go into that phase of like calming, and then you tune in and like, I always say to everyone, like, always tune into your own intuition. If you feel that you need to seek medical assistance, absolutely do that. But it's not uncommon to have those very intense heart pains as the heart chakra starts to open.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like I mean, within the mind itself, we have the reptilian section of the brain, and then we also have the intellectual brain. Then the intellectual brain for me, when I was doing journeying, what they were showing me was like the the connection of the stem of the brain going down into the nervous system, down into the base of the body, and the reptilian is hand in hand connected to the physical body. This body is reptilian to a degree, mixed with mammalian DNA, and then you have the understanding of your intellectual mind, part of your mind, which has to do with processing information and whatnot. And that's where you have the physical manifestations of the different types of Zeta Gray races that have overextended themselves into the intellectual mind. And then Reptilian, which has disowned and ignored the emotional body, as well as the Zetas have done that. So that's why you have those separations between the reptilian and the Zeta, and then you have the mammalian, which is also very much in tune with its emotions, like the lion, the feet are very in tune with the emotions and their boundaries and loyalties and stuff like that. So it comes together within the body when we address the mental aspects of our distortions, emotional aspects, and then the physical, which is the reptilian part of ourselves. And then from there, everything comes together and whatnot. So yeah, it's really, really important. I hope that's clear for people to understand, start with.
Thank you, Jack. You've summarized it so perfectly. And I thank you so much for your detailed descriptions. I think a lot of people can benefit from that information, and I'm sure a lot of people resonate and may have gone through it or going through it, or to go through it, hopefully, and find this information. So you're such a wealth of knowledge and inspiration. So thank you so very much. I will put all the details in the description box below, where you can connect with Jack and look at his Lion Essence alchemy sprays and all the different amazing things that he does. So thank you once again for coming back. I'm sure we'll do this again sometime. I'm sure there's so much more to share. Just massive respect for the work that you do and the path and the journey that you're on. And thank you everyone for watching, and I hope that you found this helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Until next time.
Until next time, thank you everyone, and sending much love.